And joining me for more on the Malaysian Prime Minister's ongoing visit to India is my colleague Jessica Taneja, who also covered that joint press statement by the two principals. Jessica, what more can you tell us about the agreements signed by India and Malaysia?
Well, spread across various sectors, as you pointed out earlier in the report, be it defense or technology, much help required for Malaysia's PayNet and the integration with UPI, the Indian payment gateway that has been, of course, very popular, not just in Malaysia, but many other countries, including a lot of countries in the global south as well. But with Malaysia particularly has been an important partner for India, especially for its Look East policy, of course, which now has become Act East policy in the last 1 decade. And Malaysia, of course, security partner as well. And you heard from the Malaysian Prime Minister, Ramesh, there was a brief moment where it took a little while where both the Prime Ministers arrived, but when they did, it was quite a display of brotherhood among the two. There were quite a few moments where the Malaysian Prime Minister went ahead and said that this is possibly the kind of brotherhood that the two countries should be moving forward with, whether it comes to collaboration, semiconductors, artificial intelligence, quantum tech, Ayurveda, or even construction projects, and even investment from Malaysia to India, which the Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself pointed out, has been up to $4 billion. And the bilateral trade between the two, totaling roughly around $25 billion, which is likely to increase further with the MOUs, as you mentioned, have been signed across various sectors today. Of course, then elevating it to enhanced, comprehensive strategic partnership. That also gives a bit more heft to the relationship, given the kind of common interest that both countries have, especially when it comes to security and also the larger Indo-Pacific region.
Jessica, we've spoken about the MOU signed towards the end of those delegation level talks. We've also spoken about bilateral ties between the two countries. Why don't you also talk a bit, if you will, about the regional and global context of the ties, especially between India and Malaysia, given that both countries are members of the ASEAN. They're also key partners in the Indo-Pacific region. So how would you characterize India-Malaysia ties going forward as well?
Well, with what we saw at the ceremonial reception and the exchanges and, of course, the press readouts from both the Prime Ministers, it did seem like there were many deliberations made to strengthen this relationship further. Now, if you'd recall, it was already a comprehensive economic cooperation agreement that was in place between the both of them, and especially ASEAN. Malaysia is the ASEAN chair in 2025. So again, a very important move, and India has been putting its focus on a neighborhood first policy, and especially to enhance its trade with the ASEAN countries, and Malaysia is the central pillar to it. So of course, the relationship moving forward, at least when it comes to the trade ties, Malaysia seems to be moving in the same direction as India. And also, let's not forget the defense cooperation and the security cooperation, and the kind of threats, the territorial sovereignty and the other kind of threats that Malaysia at this point as a claimant faces in the South China Sea and as well as in the Indo-Pacific. So of course, in the next few years, with the kind of investments we're expecting, and not just in the sectors I mentioned, but also crucially in non-renewable energy sector. Now, the main imports from Malaysia so far in the last few decades have been palm oil and electronics. And from India, time to time, India has been able to extend help to Malaysia. If you'd recall, when there was a crisis of basmati rice, India had been able to provide that to Malaysia in a very timely manner, and the Malaysian Prime Minister had thanked Prime Minister Modi back then for that immediate relief. So these exchanges keep happening between the two countries, but this visit particularly focused on how to take this forward and what all can be renewed. Let's also not forget, Ramesh, Prime Minister Modi also pointed out that they are looking at renewing the FTA between India and ASEAN. That was crucial. So if that does sort of pick up momentum in the future, this would be India really moving ahead with its plan when it comes to strengthening ties with ASEAN nation, and especially bilateral trade, and also trying to make sure that the trade balance is maintained and the deficit certainly is covered up.
Jessica, thank you very much. Jessica Taneja reporting there from New Delhi.